I woke up today feeling so much lighter and more peaceful, and my life is not perfect. But the big shift this week has been because I have been willing and able to really do a deep dive on some old trauma and really work on my personal and spiritual growth. I've also had a lot of really good help. Let me go ahead and call out to people. Louise Jeffries, quantum identity and manifestation coach, has been helping me tremendously. So has Bronwyn Halley, who does breath work and Reiki, and Will Carlos, who does energy clearing, and also Stephanie Sexton, who does Akashic Records reading. So none of this would be possible without them. And I've also worked my ass off. So just a little background. So I turned 50 in a little less than a week. And for some reason, like right before my decade birthdays, my life goes insane. It didn't really happen. Didn't really happen at 10, or I don't remember if it did. Definitely happened at 20. At 20, I ended up in a mental hospital. I checked myself into a mental hospital for self-harm ideation. I didn't actually do it. I just thought about it a lot. And so I checked myself into a hospital. I got out on my 20th birthday. 30 was horrible. I went into drug and alcohol recovery shortly right after my birthday, like I think that next week. And 40 wasn't so bad. It was a little rough, but 50 is a bitch. So I am in Cusco, Peru, and I have cut off most of my biological family because it's just not healthy relationships, very dysfunctional. So I'm here by myself, and my business is not doing what I want it to do. And more accurately, I have not been able to get myself to do all the things I know to do because I am a sales and lead gen strategist. I know what to do, but it's just like pulling nails to get myself to do the things that I know to do that will move the needle. So I'm great at helping my clients, great at helping them come up with custom strategies and everything. But when it comes to doing this stuff for myself, oh my God, it's so hard. So what's been leading up to this? So, have you ever had a time in life where everything you tried to do felt like something that looked very straightforward? It's like, okay, I'm going to go do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and it'll be handled. Or maybe even simpler than that. Like, I just need to go do this thing, it'll be handled. And then you run into like obstacles like at every single point. I describe it as trying to walk through 3 feet of curing cement, and I'm only 5'2", so 3 feet of curing cement would be like, I don't know, maybe like here, like it'd be pretty high up. But that's what it's felt like. So, practical example. So I sold some intensives back in August, and they did Stripe payments. The Stripe payments was connected to an old business account. I didn't know the business account had been that account had been closed due to inactivity. And so I have spent the last like 8 weeks trying to get my money. So they wouldn't let me update my address. So I had to be sent to my old address in Georgia. Then it had to be forwarded to my digital mailbox. And then now there's no way for me to like remote deposit the check. So I've got to wait to have it DHL'd to me in Peru, which is costing me $50. So just stuff like that. And that's just like one of the examples of just how things have been going. And when that happens, it's the universe trying to get my attention and trying to say, like, look, there's an up level that's available for you, but these are the things that you've got to clean up, right? And sometimes it's really mundane stuff like this bank account that is tied to my old hometown where I have a lot of trauma, and it's tied to bad memories about my family, and I should have closed it, and I just didn't. But I should have closed it when I opened my new one, but I didn't. And so sometimes it's like little things like that, practical things like there's this old bank account, it's old energy, you need to let it go. And sometimes it's a whole lot of like personal and spiritual ick, right? So I've been working with Louise Jeffries, and been she's been like helping me to like feel safe feeling my old feelings. And so that's been a big process, and realizing that I don't know if you guys ever felt this. So like when I've worked with spiritual and like personal growth mentors in the past, I felt like they were blaming me for holding on to things. Like it was some moral failing or some, failing on my part that I was holding on to stuff. And what I realized is that it's I didn't feel safe enough to be able to feel, acknowledge, process, and release these emotions. And so for me, they were like my heart had kind of like volunteered to be the vault for all the things that Heather couldn't, it wasn't safe for Heather to feel. And so this past like 2 months has been about like being kind to my heart, being appreciative of my heart, and letting it, coaxing it to open up, and appreciating it. Because I used to feel angry at myself because like, why aren't you letting go? You spent all this money and you've done all this work to let this stuff go, and it's still here. What's wrong with you? Which doesn't help. Like it just spirals down more, right? And so learning to be compassionate to myself has been a big part of this process. And then Bronwyn Haley, I don't even know, she's one of my like closest friends, and I don't know how to say her name correctly. I've been doing breath work with her, and getting Reiki healings. And where was I going with that exactly? Oh, we're doing those biweekly, and they've been really helpful in helping to regulate my nervous system. That's it. Because at the end of the day, if you're a trauma survivor, and if you have a lot of complex, especially complex PTSD, your nervous system doesn't feel safe, right? And if it's not safe, like in my childhood, right, for instance, it wasn't safe for me to know how bad the situation I was in, like how unhealthy my parents were and how unhealthy the ways that they treated and interacted with me. It wasn't safe for me to know that because I didn't have any other option. I couldn't. There was nowhere else for me to go, right? And if I had, well, there was nowhere else for me to go, right? So it wasn't safe for me to feel or acknowledge those things. So they just kind of got stored until it was I could, process them. And I'm almost 50, and I'm just now getting to a place where I can process, especially some of the heavier, deeper stuff. Because I've been on a personal growth journey, yeah, since I checked myself into that mental hospital. Actually, before that, because I was working with a therapist for a few months. Unfortunately, it was just talk therapy, so it wasn't moving the needle. Wasn't trauma informed. Wasn't using any kind of somatics. She was a great therapist. She just wasn't the right modality for me. And so I've been on this growth journey for 30 years now. And so it was frustrating. I was like, I haven't released all this stuff. Like, what the hell? What the actual fuck? Okay, so breath work. I did an Akashic reading, Akashic Records reading that was partially on my business and partly on personal stuff with Stephanie Sexton. And I met my spirit team, which I'd never really done before. It was I don't know, something about that like reading. Like I felt a lot lighter afterwards and had some clarity, and I didn't feel so alone. Like I knew, I know I've got a group of beings that are helping me, right? And that felt a lot better. And then I did an energy clearing session with Will Carlos. I worked with him off and on for 7 years now because I started with him in 2018. He worked with me right after my first chemo treatment, and I was enraged. But after working just one session with him, I chilled out dramatically. So I've been doing all this stuff to like reset my nervous system, make it feel safe to feel and process all of this stuff. And one of the things that I got to in the last like week or two was that there's a part of me that doesn't want to let go of the hurt, shame, rage, betrayal, righteous indignation. There's a whole lot of like different flavors of fury in there, but a lot of shame and guilt and just hopelessness and sadness. I have lived with ideation since I was 19, maybe even before that, but that's when it got really, really bad. And in spite of, all the things I've done, like it still creeps in, from time to time. And it sucks, because I've never actually tried to hurt myself outside of working really dangerous jobs. That was kind of my way of like trying and doing drugs, like trying to check out. But it sucks. It's really hard to get things done and to live up to your full potential and do the things you really want to do when there's a part of you that just wants to, right? So yeah. So, but then I find, that there's a part of me that feels disloyal. So I inquired. I'm like, okay, why is this bad to let this go? And it was number one, it felt like I was abandoning my younger self. Like if I, let go of this pain and all these like icky emotions and old energies, that it was like abandoning them, right? And that didn't feel good. And then it was also a thing of like I know the difference between like acceptance and surrender versus like condoning something, right? So, for instance, like one of the most important things about forgiveness is getting to a place where you accept that it happened and you can forgive that it happened. Doesn't mean you forget, doesn't mean that you let this person back in your life to hurt you again, but it means that you accept it and you're able to just like let it go and disengage. And so I know that accepting something doesn't mean that I'm condoning it. Doesn't mean that I'm like, oh well, that's fine. It's just like, okay, I had a horrible childhood. I had very dysfunctional parents. My father was very sick. And and just saying, okay, that happened and I'm accepting it and we're gonna move on, right? Which intellectually makes a lot of sense, but spiritually and emotionally, like I couldn't get there. There was just like so much anger. And so I was like, okay, I acknowledge that. I'm grateful for the insight. Now, what I'm going to do with it. So it ended up coming kind of sideways. So I did the session with Will, and it was largely about business and just my business being sluggish. I have great clients. I'm appreciative of my great clients, and I'm ready for more ease, right? And like I said, it's not that I don't know what to do. It's that I can't make myself implement the very things that I know are good to do. And I've worked with myself. I'm like, okay, because I have a really good system for helping people get better leads and easier, faster sales, and creating sustainable business systems that get them repeat clients and all the things. But one of the things I love to do is tweak my system for other people so it works better for them. Right? I've even tried that with myself. I'm like, okay, what do I need to tweak here? Is this something not aligned? Is there a different way that we need to be posting? Whatever. And that's not the problem. The problem is like this mental and emotional and spiritual block. Right? So I did the session with Will, and he was pointing out that like my desire to like save people from working with sleazy business coaches and my anger about sleazy business coaches. I've worked with some really great coaches that have helped me a lot. I would not have gotten so far in my business without them, but I've worked with a lot of people that they didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit if the program was actually right for me. As long as I was going to pay them, they were going to take my money. And if I didn't get results, it was somehow my fault, right? Even if I did everything they told me to do, and if I showed up, it was somehow my fault, right? So a lot of anger there, a lot of like righteous indignation, justified anger there, right? But it's blocking me. So I'm like, okay, I got to find a way to let this go. And again, running into that part of me that's like, no, we're not letting this go because there's things in this industry that are just fucked up, and I'm not going to condone them by accepting them. And it's like, this part of me is obviously not rational, right? God bless her. No, no, seriously, God bless her. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I found this is another one of my strengths is I can take practices that I've gotten from unrelated coaching and programs that I've been in. I have spent over $100,000 just on business coaching and courses and all that kind of stuff. Which is great because I have a lot of different, things to pull from for my clients and for my own strategies. But I've also spent quite a bit of money. I'm going to guess like at least 30,000 on like personal and spiritual growth, alternative health, healing, all these kinds of things. And I found this old tapping script. It's a woman named Brittany Watkins. I'm not sure if she's in business anymore. I did this program a few years ago, and it was all about like tapping for emotional eating. And I found this shadow work script that was about judging skinny women, right? And that being a block to you having the body that you really wanted because you're judging these other people and this energetic block, this anger, this all this stuff. And so I was like, I wonder if I can adapt this for boss babes. And not everyone who uses the term boss babe is a bad person, or that shouldn't be like, I would call it a yellow flag. Honestly, that might just be my bias. But the general thing, like the bro marketer with boobs, the type of coach that will sell anything to anybody, and just the experiences that I had, like just be very dismissive if you don't get results. They create programs that create a lot of revenue for them, but they're usually the materials aren't that good. The support is almost non-existent because it's a 100-person group program, right? Ugh. One of the things I uncovered in all this was being really pissed at myself for falling for the stuff, because in my heart I knew that there was no way this was going to work, but I let their sales psychology and their gross manipulation of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, get me, right? So that was one of the things that I uncovered. So I started off with this EFT script about judging skinny women, adapted it with ChatGPT for like judging boss babes. And it's interesting. It's like, first off, like you're judging the hell out of them. You're saying all the things that you hate about them and all your perceptions of this group, right? This whatever, in this case, boss babes. And I listed all my grievances and yada yada. But in the end, you come around to like realizing that there are things that you envy about this group of people too, and that you've been denying yourself those things and yada yada. Honestly, I have not gotten to that part of the script yet, because as I tapped on just being angry at them and blah blah blah, and ChatGPT was like, okay, are we ready for the envy part? I was like, no, we need more rage stuff, and it kept going down and kept going down. I did like 5 hours of EFT and silent screaming and hitting a pillow. I did take some breaks, but for the better part of 5 hours, that's what I did on. But I'm kind of skipping ahead. So the root of my business sluggishness, and so backing up, when I've done this type of like deep shadow work, usually, especially around anger, when I am super pissed about something and I just cannot let it go, I'm just super, 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 super pissed about something. If I dig down under the layers enough, I'm mad at myself about something that relates to it or resembles it or something. And but what it ended up being is like Will asked a really really pertinent question, because I was talking so much about like I want to be more visible. I want to get my impact out there, because two clients actually shared in one week about their experiences with their previous business mentors. I do believe that the industry is getting better, but just this year both of my clients had worked with business mentors that had been pushy and sleazy in the sales process, and then the not that's disgusting, but like these type of mentors, people that are okay being manipulative in their sales and marketing, will also be mentally and emotionally abusive in the coaching relationship. And so one client said that she would dread the group calls, and afterwards she would cry. And this is a brilliant person who is like all about doing the work. She's very empowered. She's not a victim. Another client was talking about how, when she was not comfortable with there's the other thing. If you're not comfortable with being pushy and sleazy, don't hire someone who uses pushy, sleazy, questionable tactics for business, because that's what they're going to try to force you to do. And this mentor was not, was shaming her for wanting some alternatives, right? For some tweaking, right? And I've had that experience too, where I was just mindset shamed, and I was told, I had money issues, and there was nothing wrong with their system. And it's like, if they just tweaked it a little bit, it didn't have to be sleazy, but that's all they knew, and they weren't willing to budge on it, right? So people are still doing this, and it's heartbreaking, right? So I was talking to Will about it. This is before I did this whole marathon EFT thing, and he was like, "Well, okay, so you're trying to save people, you're trying to like save people, and you're on this mission and crusade." And he's like, "That's not the right business, energy." And he's right, because I've had success, but it's been much harder than it had to be, right? And so he was like, "Okay, what is it that you feel like someone should have saved you from?" And I was like, instantly, I was like, childhood abuse. And he was like, okay. And so, we had some discussion about that. And, but even under that, so that came up in the tapping, about like, why is it that, I feel like I can't compete with these boss babes, even though I'm a better coach, even though, I'm, actually treat my clients with respect in the sales process. And, I help them, create things that work for them and, all these things. But I was like, why am I still comparing? And what came up was shame and guilt. And I won't go into it here, but like, there was something that I was really mad about not saving somebody else from. Something that I blame myself for not taking some action that could have helped somebody. So tapped on all of that and more, and got to a point. Well, actually, the only reason I stopped is because I had to take a shower and go do my music gig. It's been really cool, like having a weekly music gig, playing music for money again. Didn't see that in the cards, especially internationally, but that's been really cool. Um, so I go in and do my gig. I come back. I just feel spent. The next day I wake up and I just have no motivation, like none, none point none. And I'm like, okay, you haven't really been marketing. You need to market. And I'm like, Black Friday is coming up. Like, it's going to be here before you know it. And for any of you that don't know, with Black Friday, you need to like be sowing the seeds. Like, it really ideally in like late October or even early October. But you don't start your Black Friday stuff like the week of Black Friday. That's insanity. So, all this is going through my mind, and I'm like, I have no motivation. Like, I can't do anything. And the answer I got about that is like, well, your nervous system is now rewiring from all of this stuff that you let go. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I had to like make space for integration, which felt really frustrating. Like, I'm either like procrastinating or I'm in a full go 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 mode. And so I had to like remind myself that integrating is a very important part of this process, and I can't postpone that, right? If I had just gone back to working yesterday, then I wouldn't have integrated, and all of the work that I had done like wouldn't be as productive, right? It wouldn't be as powerful if I didn't take the time and space to integrate. And so yesterday I just chilled out. I just kind of like watched YouTube. I mean, I just completely fucked off. And then I went to see my favorite band here in Cusco. They're called La Satura Carmesi, and they're amazing. And so I started to feel a little more like myself. And last night I just let myself chill. Today I woke up and I was like, I still feel so like empty. And then I was like, I need to like, is I have this whole story for another day, but I have this whole like resistance to plugging into source because I'm mad. I'm mad because my life, my life could have been much worse. I'm glad that it wasn't. I never went hungry. I had a roof over my head. Both my parents worked. It could have been much, much worse. And it was really, really fucking shitty. So I'm grateful that it wasn't worse, but I'm really pissed that it was shitty. And letting go, there's not nearly as much fire behind that as there was like 4 or 5 days ago before I did all this. But at any rate, like plugging into source, just I'm pissed. I'm pissed at source. I don't have anything to do with it. But I was like, oh, like I really need to, find an exercise, probably something somatic, to make sense to like help me download more of this stuff, and kind of fill in all these places that are now empty because the toxic stuff is gone. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, you feel calm? That is source energy. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Woke up, had a couple great calls with people. One client, helping her to navigate some new offers, new offer suite for this new emerging economy. Like it or love it, like it or don't like it. It is what it is. So we're doing some strategy around that. And, my standard is that my clients they have to light me up. And she definitely does. And then I had a consult with somebody to help me to, make my learning materials better for my clients. And that felt really good. So it has been an amazing, amazing Friday. And I feel just there's so much lightness in my chest. I had something where I read a YouTube comment that really like it hurt me. It made me angry. I felt attacked because they were attacking me. And instead of like carrying that, I actually sat here and I was like, okay, I'm so sorry that this person hurt your feelings, and I just talked to myself very kindly and compassionately. And I sat here for what felt like forever. And I was not amused because I was hungry and there was other shit I wanted to do. But I was like, this is the priority. We got to feel this feeling and like let it pass. So just I don't know, big changes this week. And I'm very excited for what that means for me personally. I'm very excited for what it means for my mental and emotional health and my ability to be productive in my business. I'm very excited for what that means about how I'm able to serve my clients more powerfully and for even more money coming in. So, yeah. If you're interested in any of these processes, I'm trained as a life coach. That's how I started out. These are things that I do sometimes with my clients. And I think I'm going to start making a bigger part of what I do with my clients because it is really important. The next thing I'm going to handle as far as business is actually dealing with client trauma. Bad clients that I worked with that I really let undermine my confidence and really derail a lot of things in my business too. So let me know if that would be helpful. I could talk about that and give you some practices for that. So yeah, that's my update. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and let me know what you want to see more of. All right.